What's up, guys? Hades here. I'm on a new computer. The sound might sound a little bit different. I'm at my brother's house. My house is getting a little bit renovated, but that's not going to stop me from making videos. So, there was some really good matches this week, and I want to review the Vex Lion game. And if you watch my channel, I'm also going to review the SFGN game. I think there's some really important things to know about this matchup. A lot of unique strategies are being implemented here, and we're going to talk about them. So, jumping right into it, times four, we have Lions up here in the top right, in the white, and Vex bottom left, the red. 29 to 29. These are some top teams. If you're not aware, I have them both in my top 10 list. They're both very good. They're both led well. They're both coached well. We have a relatively neutral bottom. There is more from the Lion players. There's only one at home for Vex, one at home for Lion. Very weak on both sides. There is a relative balance here on the top. I would say slightly in favor for Lion, especially with two more coming in just a bit late. Positioning is pretty solid. There are these small gaps between them, which is totally normal. And then very neutral here in the middle. So, what's going on? How does this play out? Because I think both of these teams have potential. They're all probably a couple of either outbuild or a couple players difference would make a huge difference on these teams. And then just little things like having someone right next to this, having this player one step forward, because they have a numbers advantage, right? This is 6 to 9, so there's actually a +3, and if there's ever a +2 at a tower, I believe that to be very much winning in 90% of scenarios, unless players are really badly injured, or of course unless one team just has a way better build, way better players. Vex had a really nice all-in. They already own this tower, while this bottom tower I believe is still neutral. Yeah, so a big coordination lack on the Lion side here. This should be theirs 100% of the time. 9 versus 6 is more than enough to just overpower and take a tower like this, which means they're just not prepared for it. And then there's also a bit of a backdoor going on. 4 versus 1, just absolutely punishing. If this player doesn't land, this is going to be really hard. The thing is, this isn't going to work in the long term unless it's very well thought out and it lasts for a very long time. Now, once players start to die and go into respawn, I say this in almost every video, they're going to be able to defend this. So this won't be able to be held for very long. Not a big fan of this strategy, but you know, everyone has their own thing, and you know, Vex won this game, so who am I to judge what they can and cannot do? So as we can see here, this position is collapsing as expected. Lion now owns it. It took him a little bit longer than I thought it would. And then Vex here in this neutral position is kind of hanging on. They're holding on as much as they can. I'm not a big fan of moving up this far ahead of your teammates. It's just so quick to rally from there. No one can really defend you well. It's just difficult. And they're a little bit disjointed. I don't think they're getting enough blocks. So I wouldn't say this is going to last too long, especially with this player being half HP already and this player have taken a few hits. Looking at the middle, which is going to be the next most important piece in this kind of middle stage of the game at around the 45-minute mark, assuming no one takes it right away, it's who's going to have enough players here, right? So 6, 12, and 6, 7, 8. So there's quite a significant push from Vex in the middle before Lions. But Lion should have first rotation from this bottom. Pretty standard stuff here. And you can see that they were coming in. A few of them got blocked. So Vex can keep this kind of hold here and maybe capture this with a all-in play. That's going to do well for them. Keeping note here that 30-30, so the subs really came in. This is a high level match here. This is something that could be semifinals or finals if everything kind of comes together. That player finally gets ported, and I expect this to go back into Lions' favor at some point in the near future. I'm honestly shocked they haven't taken it, which means that these Vex players have outplayed them at this turret for quite a significant amount of time. We're at the 40-minute mark. That's a third of the game, and finally you can see it's gonna be taken potentially. It's now 4. It's like 2-1 essentially, and it got cleared again. Like, this is just bad coordination. This should have been Lions quite a long time ago, but they're just disjointed, and maybe they have slightly worse builds. You never know. It is a factor in these games. Vex is now taking complete control of the middle. They're surrounding the outside edges. We're starting to see the ports. There's 4 in the base of Vex, and there's 4 in the base of Lion, and Vex is taking a commanding 4-1 lead. Their invade has worked for a shocking amount of time. They still shockingly own the top, and they own the middle, which is kind of crazy. Lion has almost unlimited options here. The enemy home tower is completely exposed. Their home tower should be very simple to take. There's only 4 players, and they don't have to be at their bottom anymore. So they have tons of options, right? And they're neutral / winning on the top. So they just have to execute well, and this position that Vex has built, I would say it's kind of like a house of cards. It's going to be really rewarding. You're going to gain a ton of points, but it shouldn't last. In theory, it should not last. Against a very strong opponent, it wouldn't last for very long. But if you're playing with good enough players, it's pretty easy to hold. Now Vex has a complete control of the middle, and they don't have to be here anymore. At least not this many players. I count about 10. You don't need 10 at the center, which means they can reinforce one of their side lanes, either tower 1 or tower 2, and then their lead is just gonna grow. Because now you can see the players from middle are now here in tower 2, and now this is gonna be stuck here for a long period of time, and then tower 1 somehow never got taken, and now you can see kind of why Vex won this game. It became honestly a macro outclass plus outplays, and the game's pretty much over. They have such a significant lead. Even if 1 or 2 is taken back, it won't matter. What I want to do is I want to go back to the most important pieces of the game and then check all the data. So the very most important part is in the first 10 minutes. We're going to go here. This is the bottom. They're up players and they win. This is good. Now, this kind of shocks me how they couldn't take this top lane. I think this could have just been a build diff or a player diff. But either way, it's just not acceptable to lose this hard in the top lane, because this is where they put their players. They had a significant amount extra here. They were neutral middle, and then they were giving up their home tower because they only defended with 1. So they needed to allocate players less evenly, right? So it would have almost been better to have given up tower 1 and had more reinforcements in the central tower, or vice versa, whatever you feel. And then if the enemy is going to invade, then you have to do something similar, right? Because exposing one player defending is very simple. Have you the coordination to do it? But because the Lions players get really pigeonholed into their 3 slots, and they're split pretty evenly, 10-10-10, they're kind of just stuck here the rest of the game. Excuse me, they're not all 10, but... And if you're stuck here and you get slightly outplayed, or the opponents are slightly better, you're never going to win a battle like that. You have to manipulate your players. So I think the big takeaway here is not getting stuck with where you are and being creative in the moment, and how you're going to rotate away from these situations. And I want to look at all the players' reports, or just stats from both teams. Lions players 4 in the million, which is pretty solid at this stage of the game. And I mean, that kind of tells the story right there. 7, almost 8 players in the million mark, which is just quite high. It doesn't go much further than that. This tells a big part of the story. The players just played better, and you can see from troops wounded how big of a difference it is, right? Vex, again, millions, and it falls off, which usually means that the build was just a bit better on the side of Vex, on top of the fact that they were able to hold 4 for so long. Really made a huge difference in this one. Yeah, if you guys like videos like this, let me know in the comments below, and